Sweet Land, Ode to America, 250, July 4th, 2026. Coinciding with the 4th of July celebrations was the release of a tribute song, Sweet Land, an Ode to America 250, released by Heavy Pulp, in this link here. Replete with nostalgic themes of a prior generation's hope of what was meant to be possible, but badly failed. An ode to a new time reached the restoration of the USA. But why discuss this 4th of July ode, Sweet Land? President Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." But why, of all things, should there even be a need of a dialogue about Sweet Land, Ode to America 250 at the Christian dinner table? Well, Sweet Land, Ode to America is a woe of a meme song, and the backdrop is the sweet child. The AI-generated music presentation using advanced graphic tools is nostalgic hat tip to the retro era of the 50s and the 60s. But then there is the strange juxtaposition of a Stargate portal and the presidents with red folders, the last scene passing through the portal. Is this backstory indicating the awaited, the long-withheld advanced technology? Here in this link. And there is the line about free energy. Well, keep in mind, the Ode 250 does use the following line. Is it going to be free energy forever or continue to be the same old grind? Evidently, big change is around the corner. The other physics, torsion field energy, medical problems solved, quantum computing released for the golden age. Perhaps it can mean they are hallmarks of the Great Awakening with patriot idiom. We all go one. Stop and think. Does that mean there is more about unity consciousness than first thought? Surely a profound change will occur, like attitudes to right versus wrong and good versus evil is about to play out, bringing about justice for the wrong and then bright future. Yes, it must arise. Right? Innovations? Yes. Releasing supposed tech? Yes. Peace? Right? But with all this, is the blinding obvious exists? What's with the portals? What then comes with the spiritual slipstream? By virtue of the portals featured? Is the Sweet Land Ode 250 conveying something? Not so obvious, which is the intrusions of the burgeoning strivings of spiritualism and the law of one. The law of one has been proven contrary to the first angel, let alone why he who made is Alpha and Omega. You be the judge. Sweet Land Ode 250 brings to memory the great years of the baby boomers, the reminiscence of ample opportunity, of innovation, of freedom. It can be said a sophisticated AI music genre such developing this Sweet Land Ode 250 is a Q-inspired iteration. Validation is the captioned by the number 4559 and allegiance to the flag here in this link. Be that as may. Restoration, hope, and life of the pursuit of happiness and unity. But is the Ode 250 in fact a theological matter, all reorienting to one nation under one God? Well, yeah, but what theological road does that take everyone down? But how urgent is this for one's attention, and what does it ultimately bring to the fore? Well, when it comes to portals being prominent, there is to be reckoned a spiritual elevation, and hitherto previously unknown and definitely not to be ignored. The ultimate portal is found in Revelation 9. A key opens the bottomless pit. By now you should be able to see something, which is the fact portals will only vouchsafe one theological concept, which is what? The answer, the law of one. Spiritualism, portals, and occult have been the doyen of the channelers and Megans and the warlocks for thousands of years. And what about in the context of the Luciferian era? Well, one thing becomes obvious: the law of one theology will never be advancing the law of two of John 1:1. Does Isaiah 8:19 now come to mind? So why is it the case that Ode 250 need to be synced with the mysteries of the portals for the Great Awakening, advanced tech, and the imminent Golden Age? Either way, whether it's now or later, no amount of sidestepping or fence sitting will suffice. Everyone will have to pick a lane. Everyone has a decision and turns on the details of the first angel's warning. And if you got to this point and have a few issues digesting the Ode 250 Sweet Land music, then grow up. Ultimately, you are dealing with the first angel's warning, and the law of one will leave you at the crossroads over John 1:1. Whereas the law of two is heaven's freedom, or be led astray and remain shackled to the law of one. It is the omega of deadly heresies. This theological fact is not way out in far left field, as many of you would conclude. Portals. Think for a moment. Portals? Yeah, portals. And why need they be prominent in this AI music and ode to the future of the sweet land of the USA? So really? Ought Christians need be bothered? Well, Jesus in Matthew 24 said deception will be rife, and so why wait till then to find out? Fact is, yes, spiritual portals do lead to new beginnings of access to other dimensions. It's a proportional tool or conveyance unto spiritual healing that is to encourage spiritual growth and not by force, but by attention. Portals can be described as an energetic gateway, doorway to the universe that connects one's mind to the higher state, which is a state to higher level of consciousness of an infinite dimension, and then to energetics of consciousness of bliss or nirvana or energetics or from another realm. The spiritual realm is a very deep topic, and the consequences that arise will render eventually to awkward decisions, even at a time when one is powerless to prevent the existence. Yes, the law of one will be palpable. There is no escaping the snare. Therefore, as we all now head to the era of the apocalypse, any mention of a portal is a reference subtly involves a doorway to the darker domain of the so-called light of 2 Corinthians 11:14-15. And just as an aside, we are hearing the Sweet Land Ode 250 in July 2026. And for those who can add up, there's 3.5 years to the 2030. Detail that coincidence with the well-published Agenda 2030. People who adopt and follow that agenda rely on Daniel 9's 70th week. Is that a valid prophetic tool? Many say it is, and they believe it has to have a bunch of potential. But no, it's a big distraction to the events of Revelation 13, of chapter 13, and as you will discover, and the 10 Kings. And with this detail comes a variation with the meaning of church and state. The Sweet Land 250 Ode to America includes not only the presence of the portal, but there's the scene where there is the speaking through the portal to the other side. This brings dimensions of altered space and time. So what are you really dealing with? A state of consciousness connected to an unknown realm? The so-called benevolent beings, aliens? Yet they remain what they always were, fallen angels in disguise as federations of benevolent beings, with profound messages of peace and guidance? Channelers, Megans have been at this form of alchemy for a very long time. Exponents all know this involves the state of higher consciousness offered to Eve, and they believe there exists an inner godhood, sparks, monads. Its sentience means to escape from the material world of evil into the spiritual realm of good and right doing. But then, since the gravitational pull of the spiritual slipstream just mentioned is exceedingly strong and nearly undetectable, and it is something like a spiritual interlocutory for your spiritual peacefulness, and there it is, the portal again, reached out to those intrigued who rightly hate the farce of religion, yet still want to tap into other dimensions, and there exists of a power and a solace of an inner power long sought, and ironically, of all things, it ties in with the UAP disclosures. 4th of July Sweet Land Ode 250, is this a prelude announcement to the Renaissance of the USA, the Golden Age? From every angle you wish to consider, there is the full potential to elevate the consciousness of mankind from immaturity to the foremost spiritual development to we go one all. And have you noticed they all claim every time they say there is one God, which from the portal perspective is the source, the universe, the energetics. But what are you really encountering? Certainly doesn't agree with the first angel's warning and the two anthropomorphic divines in Arche, John 1:1. Sweet? Okay, here's the question. Does God make a cross reference to the sweet? Yes, the command is, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings, which is the sweet in the mouth, but bitter in the stomach. Does it mean the sweet land O250 will also be bitter in the stomach? Bitter in the stomach is definitely the not optimal scenario for a state of unity consciousness or elevated spiritual development, right? The fact remains forever, the Elohim of the law of two have and will permanently be contradicted by the law of one by way of a state of consciousness and the need of portals. Isaiah 8:19 is the reminder, right? Vain philosophy and the occult. How? For those who don't know, is there a reference by God to sweet? Yes, there is sweetness, Revelation 10 style. And keep in mind, it's it's in the days of the seventh angel, when time shall be no longer. Well, there is more to consider. Sweetland 250 Ode Portal sees something else involved. Which is what? The second beast of Revelation 13. Ironically, in the sweet land of the second beast, this is a different beast to the first beast, and not part of the 10 contemporaneous kings of Revelation 17, or the transition over to Revelation 13 combo, and those 10 of Zechariah 8:23. The sweet land of the second beast places a twist to the matter of Laodicea's notions of church and state. But before this aspect is briefly discussed, there is need to mention the foresight of the biblical millstone principle of Matthew 18. Millstone principle. The restoration of the sweet land for the sweet child rightfully gives full focus to children. What is it about the millstone principle of Matthew 18:6 and the grievous sins against children? A long-held dark secret about the sweet child down through history, and Christ made this known. Matthew 18:6 seems what we will soon find out, sins against the children is the core reason for the Revelation 17:16 destruction of Papa Pointy Hat by the 10 kings in 1 hour. Seems there will be no stopping the disclosure of the great sins, crimes against humanity. It will galvanize unity for the sweet child against evil and all unrighteousness. Then, if Revelation 17:16 is true, the destruction of Papa Pointy Hat is true. For those familiar with the Bible, God actually commands and takes the 10 guys to dole out the fullest disdain and destruction, who hate the whore and do God's bidding in that 1 hour to give their kingdom unto the first beast and destroy Papa Pointy Hat. Revelation 17:16-17 says, And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and to give their kingdom unto the beast, unto the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. So with that, what about church and state? Church and state. Revelation 17's 10 kings are there to fulfill God's will. Okay, so does Revelation 17:16-17 carry a need for a brief note to reconciling the meaning of church and state? Of course. Laodicea's evangelism and religious liberty thrives completely upon the concept of church and state as the basis of developing the events in Revelation 13. The big problem is Laodicea has no answer why the purple hag of Revelation 17:16 is destroyed and has no part with Revelation 13. Right? How do you articulate accurately church and state relations in the sweet land after the destruction of Papa Pointy Hat? Christ did explain a few things already. He explained in Luke 21, when you see what Jerusalem no longer trodden down of the nations, you will then encounter the summer of the fig tree. He then stipulated there is a snare. The other fact remains that this generation living in this era, yes, our era, will what? Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Restoration of the sweet land is also combined with focus of peace in the Middle East. But what's not seen by every Joseph, Joanne out there is the high summer of the fig tree and why that initiates the snares as it relates to the law of Isaiah 2. He who made did emphasize for as a snare. So likewise, ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of God is nigh at hand. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass away till all be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. And take heed to yourselves, lest at any time your hearts be overcharged with surfeiting and drunkenness and cares of this life, and so that day come upon you unawares. For as a snare shall it come on all them that dwell on the face of the whole earth. What snare exactly? The events are set forth in their sequence in Luke 21. One can follow the accuracy unfolding of events with 100% surety. Sheila Holm, in this link, provided American patriots an extremely rare insight, but never joined the dots relating to the theological mountain peaks and how the snare of Isaiah 2 eventuates, as in the law of one, the 7 Noahides. Notice the development here. The theological problem for Laodicea is this. Sister White provided no commentary for Revelation 17:16. Same as with Isaiah 2. This is understandable as to why Laodicea breathed life into the expectation of the National Sunday Law. But then Laodicea have had plenty of time to identify the omega of deadly heresies, particularly why Sister White said it would be received and trembled. But Laodicea ignored the council and it embraced and embedded in Fundamentals 2 and 4 and the 28 fundamental beliefs. Laodicea ignored the raw details Sister White said about neglecting the sealing time and the seal of God. Laodicea say the Sabbath is the seal of God, whereas the Bible definition is found in Revelation 14, verse 1, the RSV, the ASV, etc. So can anyone explain how Laodicea will recognize the twist in the tale and the change in the church and state problem arising with the law of one? Laodicea completely ignored the law of two and officiated this by instilling the omega of deadly heresies into their 28 fundamental beliefs. And that terrible blindness means they cannot see there is no national Sunday law. Due to Revelation 17:16, Sister White wrote in 1885 the famous conclusion here. Protestantism clasping hands with spiritualism, and then national ruin. Our country, sweet land, shall repudiate every principle of its constitution as a Protestant and Republican government, and shall make provision for the propagation of papal falsehood and delusions. Then we may know that the time has come for the marvelous working of Satan, and that the end is near. Due to Revelation 17:16-17, it's easy to see the twist of scriptural detail, since the propagation of papal falsehood is impossible. But Laodicea accepted the papal falsehoods of the Triune Trinity, Fundamental 2, and God the Eternal Son, Fundamental 4. So who is kidding who? National ruin, Sister White spake about, without the National Sunday Law seems to be an impossibility. Yet very few realized the repudiation of every principle of the Constitution as a Protestant and Republican government occurred at the 102nd Congress. Sheila Holmes set that out for the wider readership for patriots of the sweet land, here in this link. Yes, an easy-to-read format, but unfortunately never drew the conclusion of the levels of occultism that is applied to the law of one, let alone portals and their deep void of spiritualism. But thank God for Revelation 13:8-9. But for only for the Alpha and Omega of He who made, the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world, exists, and all the while it was confirming the law of two as the crucial matter of the eternal righteousness of He who made in Revelation 13's 1290 days. The first angel's warning is all about the law of two, and this warning prevails through Revelation 13 and the 1290 days. If this was not existent, we all would remain ignorant, only to be ensnared to the law of one. Right? Sheila errantly described Echad as a special formation of unity. Yeah, the ultimate theological argument that leads the world to accept Deuteronomy 6:4 and the law of one. Besides, why would he who made in Luke 21 call out the snare? And then everyone distracted with the mark of the beast and the image and the 666, and yet they all ignore the power of the law of two and its implications with the sealing time? So you really have a twist with the rationale of the entire context of church and state as a discourse with Revelation 13. And Laodicea are already snared by fundamentals 2 and 4. Let's just say it. Everyone is dealing with the very deep trickery and deception of spiritualism. When it fuses unity via a portal that we go one all, the fact is the sentiment of patriots are still none the wiser. when the repudiation of the First Amendment by the 102nd Congress by joint resolution is already effectual law, regardless of the Golden Age, right? What is the true, profound, and deep spiritual theology of Revelation 13:8 and the law of two, of why Christ is Alpha and Omega, that constitutes the seal of God, and therefore true unity with heaven, when the first and second beasts are part of the same chapter? The question is, but why? Okay. The bigger contextual question about the apocalypse is what is conveyed in Revelation 13:8 to 9, and why it defines the background of the eternal righteousness of he who made and the law of two, and by consequence must include the three angels' messages. Now follow closely how the scriptures address all of this. It was the initial illustration of the Lamb that was slaughtered prior to the fall of Adam, and introduced when Adam and Eve were told to remove the fig leaves and place upon themselves the animal skins. The one who restrains and is removed toward the end of the golden age is the sweet land of the second beast, appears to be Alos, which brings in the time frame of what wicked one, whom the Lord shall slay with the brightness of his glory. Needs to be kept in mind that 554 plus 1290 years equals 1844. Wherein the sanctuary Day of Atonement ushered in. So what do the 1260 days of the first beast involve? Troddening underfoot, and is the same time frame of no measuring the court, and then there is the final plus 30 days, equals the abomination of desolation, Matthew 24:15. The final witness, if Revelation 10 is appropriate, would include a second group after the finished work of the 144, which would be the great multitude of Revelation 7. And there is the antitypical of Revelation 6, whose heads will be removed, and this is indeed a bitter time, the apotalismatic events of Revelation 6. Then all probation closes during the 7 last plagues. This appears to be the plus 45-day period for the blessed and expectant ones of Daniel 12. The Davidians have a belief that they will be taken to a place of safety in Jerusalem city, but though it's far-fetched, could there possibly be a rapture of the 144 to be taken to Mount Zion as the first fruits, who represent Elijah, who were taken up in a fiery chariot, and then comes the second portion of the great multitude, who, like Moses, experienced death, apotalismatic of Revelation 6. It's the work of the 144 to give the first angel's message during the time frame of the seventh king. That is why they haven't been contaminated with women, the new post-Protestant Reformation. That is why harlotry takes place. The first angel deals squarely with the God the Eternal Son fundamental four problem, which later turns into 7 Noahides during the cry of the third angel. There is a teaching going around that states that all churches outside of Papa Pointy Hat were founded by dissident leaders. No doubt that is used to establish the primacy of the Papa Pointy Hat. The problem is, who established the Roman Church, which outwardly professed to be the true Christian church? Yeah, her doctrinal teaching veers off from eternal righteousness of the Melchizedek administration, which began with the ministration of eternal righteousness, whose continuity was revealed to Abraham in the form of Passover and unleavened bread being symbols of the Lamb that was slain prior to the foundation of the world, equals wine equals blood, slaying of eternal righteousness, which the bread coming down from heaven. This was stated by Jesus metaphorically and entails the concept of the new vineyard, since the previous tenants were cast out. The old vineyard was replaced by the new one in Matthew 20 and confirmed by Jesus as not being present in any city or mountain in this world, and this would entail the three sections of that same great city. Jerusalem City, which includes the Third Temple enterprise, as well as Mecca of the Friday guys and Vatican City, who to this day are 3 centuries centers of religious influence and power. The statement by Jesus relegates the true church to his statement in John 4:22. Yet this statement has its fulfillment in the teaching of the true olive tree, whereas some of the branches that were cut off, mainly the tenants being represented by the wine and leaving process and leveling process, were booted out to make way for the eternal righteousness of the new vineyard that was ushered in. Whereas the Vatican City and Papa Pointy Hat does not adhere to the wine and bread as being metaphorical symbols of eternal righteousness, and have taken the disgust of the 70 who no longer walked with Christ in relation to literalism to a new level, which negates the once for all perfect sacrifice and repeats it on a 24/7 days a week basis by the human work of transubstantiation, being their continual ministration, which they believe is Jesus' high priest administration, which in reality supplants Jesus's true daily, the continual ministration, in the form of agendas 3 to 5 of the heavenly sanctuary, which culminates in the restoration of the sin problem, resolution of the sin problem. And how? By way of eternal righteousness, as stated in Revelation 13:8-9. This means the concept of the woman riding the beast equals church and state hand in hand is that the teaching of Vatican City actually resides in the old vineyard of crucifying he who made afresh by their continual concept of the Mass by way of an altered Christos, and also by way of the Mariolatry. Do you also now see why Papa Pointy Hat is destroyed by the 10 kings in 1 hour? Whereas there is the deeper profoundness of eternal righteousness in the following. 1. Melchizedek ministered in heaven as the centerpiece of sanctuary theology, John 4:22. 2. The sanctuary administration moved to earth as primordial burnt offering. 3. Moses built sanctuary according to heavenly, Hebrews 8. Jesus died on the cross. 5. Transgression of desolation, Daniel 8:11-13. 6. Daniel 8:14, 12 and 13. 7. Tabernacle congregation spewed 5 p.m. Back to imposition of old vineyard at the third temple. 9. No measuring for those in the court, Revelation 11. 10. The continual ceases, for the abomination desolation takes place. These 10 points are quite important when you are working on why there is the twist of separation of church and state, as it is applied in the 1290 days of the abomination of desolation. Question, but why? Viewed from the vantage point of the Bible, church and state is not the real war of Revelation 12:17. Because there is in reality a bigger spiritual war that commenced in heaven. The first beast, according to Revelation 13 and Isaiah 2, is a theocracy. Robert Meyer, in this link, stated, people frequently confuse the idea of church-state separation with a theocracy. While a theocracy technically means rule by God, the main feature of a theocracy is a nationally acknowledged and formal bilateral covenant with the Almighty. Therefore, in its simplest form, a theocracy is not church and state. A theocracy in its ultimate expression is all about the law of one, and its transcendental formation is the hallmark of the pinnacle of spiritualism. The war against God. Yes, the war against the first angel of Revelation 14. Revelation 13 describes the theocracy problem in full. Then there's the details of Isaiah 2 that gives rise to the exclusive patronage of a theocracy by any national government. How? And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 40 and 2 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, and to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. There it is, amplified by God. The same first beast imposes a law, Isaiah 2:3, whereas the sweet land of the second beast augments this by way of a transfer of power. What happens? At the end of the 42 months of the first beast of Revelation 13 is well known, and God then says the sweet land of the second beast delivers this same momentum of exclusive patronage of the first beast and the third temple. But on this occasion, in the sweet land of the second beast, it is under the auspices of the miracle-working false prophet. That in the last 30 days of the 1290, what you have is the outward manifestation of the law of one, where the lamb-like beast is a full dragon speaking. And so surely you can see the old notions of church and state fall flat on their face, and there's definitely a twist in the tale due to the fact that God said they worship the dragon and the first beast, and then also the sweet land of the second beast speaks as a dragon and makes war with everyone who defies the law of one in full acknowledgement, which is against the law of two of John 1:1, resulting in what? Resulting in Revelation 20 verse 4. This is intentional result as noted by God, and keep in mind there exists another group in the sweet land of Protestant reasoning who would arise as the sun was setting in what is known in Revelation 10 as there is time no more. Revelation 20 verse 4 is describing a two-tier scenario, glorious for the testimony of the law of two. The wall or breaching of the wall of the law of one appears to be a perfect witness, no guile. But with the other tier, which involves the added feature of martyrdom, as noted in Revelation 20, right? Laodicea places excessive emphasis on church and state, with Revelation 13 as being Papa Pointy Hat. Can you not now see the predicament? And yet Laodicea cannot see the backdrop of Zechariah 8:23, the third temple, the 10 kings, or why the twist changes with respect to church and state, all the while there is the eighth king, guy of Daniel 8:23-24. The Laodicean concept of church and state is understood as holding hands with Papa Pointy Hat collapses. Why? Revelation 17:16. But also, Sister White said Protestantism, not the state, clasped hands with spiritualism. God said the spiritualism in the sweet land of the second beast is courtesy of miracle-working false prophet. Also, spiritualism's law of one is the ascendant doctrine for 3.5 years, and its zenith is the plus 30 days in the sweet land of the second beast. But as for the sweet land of the second beast, the First Amendment was already breached perfectly in the 102nd Congress. No one protested. Where have been the Protestants, anyway? See this link. God said the 10 kings destroying the purple hag. That is not in the sweet land of the second beast. Since when Revelation 17 is effectuated in 1 hour, a huge spiritual vacuum arises. That alone brings the fullest purpose of the loud cry against the law of one, which means the imminence of the wicked one, the dominance of the 2 Thessalonians 2 guy. You now have the context of two beasts in spiritualism of the 1290 days. The only way to respond with the power of heaven to the prevailing iniquity is the law of two. And you now know why Revelation 13, 8 to 9 exists in Scripture, and why the Lamb slain from before the foundation of the world is the critical issue about the law of two of John 1 1 concerning the loud cry and what follows the loud cry is full. The spectrum spiritualism of Revelation 13 goes into full swing. If you have eyes to read, you will see this. The restored republic of the sweet land of the second beast is at the plus 30 days of the 1290, is now also a fully fledged theocracy whose dragon power was transformed directly over from the third temple, where the 10 crowned kings bidding fullest service for the Second Thessalonians 2 guy. How? Luke 21, 24 to 35 gives you the events of our time, the bigger picture, fulfilling of the times of the nations. And then there's the summer full bloom of the fig tree. And the snare is not church and state, but the third temple of the first beast. And as Isaiah 2 said, it is the law of one, as in its full 360 spectrum of spiritualism. He who made said, watch the summer of the fig tree, or be caught in a snare. We are told what to watch and spiritually prepare. There's obviously a problem with the church and state as one's sole focus, and why? Well, you already saw how God said, the sweet land of the second beast only goes into action with the last 30 days of the 1290 Daniel 12. Yes, Revelation 13 has 1290 days involved and includes the 42 months. But the plus 1 month plus 30 days is the doozy. So what's the point, then, of Laodicea taking up church and state with Revelation 13? When the time of the sweet land of the second beast duration prophetically is 30 days. Hey guys, this is the third woe. Very end, the third woe. Time no more. And then transitions to the 7 last plagues of Revelation 16. This event is post 1290 and is the plus 45 days to the 1335 of Daniel 12. Woe, woe, woe. The entire irrelevance of church and state at this time is the fact all the power of the first beast at leopard-like speed occurs and the lamb-like beast ascends, and now is to speak as a dragon, since all power of the first beast is transferred to the second beast. You are at the time of the third woe. The third woe duration is 30 days to the end of the 1290, and the warning of the third angel is real, and it's all over the law of two versus the law of one. And then there is the plus 45 days and the 7 last plagues, with time being cut short. Those are the events. If one cannot now see its summer and restored fig tree is in full bloom by way of changes already to the First Amendment by virtue of the 102nd Congress, then was Jesus incorrect about the resurgent fig tree? No wonder Laodicea cannot see the third temple as holding the entire answer to the question of why. The question then is, since Papa Pointyhat, the purple hag, at the first part of the second woe, the importance of the seal of God takes preeminence. The daily continual ceases. Then abomination of desolation takes place. This then has to do with close of individual probation, not to mention the sealing and the seal of God. When seen, the war of Revelation 12:17 is reflected by the details of Revelation 13 and Third Temple enterprise with the 10 crowned kings, and one should be now looking for the arrival of the 7th king. That king must continue a short space, Revelation 17:10. Since Tovia says Friday guys are 7 Noahides, and the earthquake at Great City involves 3 sections, the Roman Catholic Church is leaderless, destroyed by 1010, contemporaneous kings of Revelation 17. So why bother with church and state when the era of the 8th king of Revelation 13 is Luciferian? He who made said the abomination of desolation, Matthew 24:15, means a supernaturally charged behest against the continual daily of Melchizedek. But despite whether you shrug or say, it is still all about eternal righteousness and the law of two, not the flux of church and state. The first thing is if the continual ceases, then individual probation is ceased. But is it? When the prophecy again, Revelation 10, includes the two witness of Revelation 11. This antidote of the metaphors of Revelation 11 means eternal righteousness still offers eternal righteousness and forgiveness. But in respect to individual with everlasting gospel by way of prophecy again in the days of the seventh angel, eternal righteousness is the everlasting gospel, and teachers of righteousness are not only at loud cry, but through the 1290 days of Revelation 13. As to why the law of one is not about eternal righteousness of he who made, the first angel's warning, let alone he who made's identity, as Alpha and Omega, the everlasting gospels in defense of eternal righteousness, of Melchizedek and the order of Melchizedek, the war of Revelation 12:17. The first angel's warning brings out the loud cry of the law of two and features prominently. It's coupled with the third warning and second at this time. The fifth trumpet commences the first woe, Revelation 8:13 and 9 and 1. A key opens the bottomless pit, portal of portals. The fury of the demonic horde ensues, with law of one, a global unified unity. At its foundation is the omega of deadly heresies. Fullest rage of the first beast is against Christ's eternal righteousness, and its dragon war is of dire fury, for he being of the order of Melchizedek. The law of two is the spiritual bedrock of John 1:1, as well as the first angel's warning, and remains the divine truth concerning Alpha and Omega status of he who made.